Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. Today I am super excited to bring to you my Hades workshop. I actually intended to create this type of a video quite some time back after I had hit 444 subscribers. I, however, took quite some time to get around to completing the workshop. So Hades, of course, has been very, very patient with me. And I finally got around to creating the workshop, the structure of the workshop. I've been working on it for the past couple of days and it feels complete at this point in time. So I finally sat down to record the workshop. So I chose the number 444 or the number 4 because Hades to me is very linked to the death, the 13-4 energy. And of course I'm speaking about the life path 4 or 13, which is also a 4, so 13-4, which so happens to be my personal path, as well as he's just an excellent representation of the Emperor archetype as well as the Death archetype. I find that he embodies those energies very well. And of course, as you guys are well aware, I have a lot of Scorpio and Pluto placements in my chart. My chart is actually ruled by the planet Pluto. I find that my life is just dominated by his archetypal themes as he is Pluto. So it felt very fitting to finally get around to completing this workshop and just, of course, having this workshop out there in devotion and in honor of him as a guide, as an archetypal energy that I deal quite a lot with. I think that this workshop will be excellent for other people that are devoted to the archetypal energy of Hades, whether you see or work with him as an archetype or as a spirit guide or a deity. I think all those things matter. So I'm not intending to single anybody out. So we will be exploring the themes of restoring balance, feelings of confinement, restriction, reduced to roles, priorities, responsibilities. We're going to be prioritizing play and relaxation, as well as responsibilities. Exploring passion and joy in personal relationships and feelings as though we have no time for ourselves. All we have time for is responsibilities. So when I finally sat down to begin working on this workshop and I connected in with the energy of Hades, I immediately felt connected to how oftentimes I struggle so much with feelings of feeling like I'm just my roles, responsibilities, and priorities, feeling that sometimes I have no time to do anything but take care of others in my life, or all I have time for is my 9-to-5 job. That it made sense that a god with such a strong sense of duty and commitment to his role can sometimes feel trapped in his responsibilities. In fact, I got a message that perhaps he feels as though he is the only one that would take on these roles, priorities, and responsibilities. And I'm sure we all feel like that from time to time. We all resonate with that. I'm pretty sure that sometimes you feel like you're the only one that will take on some tasks and duties. Nobody else will do it, so you do it, essentially, is what I'm trying to say. So, as you can tell by the way that I am dressed today, when it comes to Hades, I am incredibly drawn to gothic and emo aesthetic. So you're going to see that represented in the deck lists, the decks that I chose for this workshop that I think would pair really well with his energy and working on this theme. So I do happen to see him in two ways. Sometimes he will present himself to me as the way he's traditionally depicted as a king sitting on a throne, and he's an older gentleman. Other times I see him in almost a younger face, and I say that with quotation marks because he's oftentimes hooded, so I can't see his face. I can just simply see typically lips. It's full lips, and he's got either a lip ring or snake bites, and he's wearing, it's like an open dress shirt with a hood, and he's very thin. He's wearing beige pants, and he's wearing an off-white like dress shirt style of a garment. And I typically see him in like a foggy or a hazy setting, and there's mountains. It's very dark, and there's mountains in the background, and I can tell we're in the underworld. So he is sort of coming to me with almost like an emo aesthetic, and that's how I picture him. By the way, I'm very curious to know how you guys see him, how he likes to appear to you. Please let me know in the comment section below. But I typically do not see his face. I'll just see his lips. It's like very hooded and it's dark, although he is letting me see his eyes today, and he's got black eyeshadow, like a smoky black eyeshadow on. So it's just very interesting to me that he does appear in these two different ways, as like this traditional emperor, older gentleman, and then there's this almost new or younger aspect of him, and he's typically standing in front of the mountains in the underworld. It's dark, it's very dark, and it's hazy, foggy, and almost feels like a lover or a like a hopeless kind of romantic energy that comes along with that version of him. So a significant aspect of this workshop is going to revolve around expectations, standards. Typically, I think expectations and priorities that, or I should say expectations and standards that we've set for ourselves in the past that no longer apply to us. It felt like there is a need to shift or refocus, really to release. Our structures served us in the past, but our circumstances have changed, and we are no longer working in alignment with our highest self. Our intuition is trying to tell us, but we're not listening or refusing to see. A significant theme of how sometimes we can get stuck in our expectations. It's easy for us to almost be trapped by them and by the structures that we've created in the past. Sometimes we can feel overwhelmed, or maybe we get frustrated with ourselves that we can't seem to keep up with something that we so easily were able to keep up with in the past. But Hades is really coming through to shed light on the fact that our circumstances have changed surrounding our lives and ourselves. Perhaps we've recently gone through some changes and we're dealing with some different time constraints. We're just dealing with very different circumstances now. So there is a very strong message about really needing to restructure and really take a look at some of the structures that we've created for ourselves, as well as really diving deep into our expectations that we have for ourselves. There was a very strong message about needing to revisualize or reestablish our vision of success for ourselves. That perhaps we're stuck in this older, idealized version of our success, that because it was possible for us in the past, that these systems and structures worked for us in the past, we're getting frustrated that they're no longer working for us. Well, Hades is coming through to say that circumstances have changed, we've changed, and it's time for us to reevaluate our vision of success for ourselves. So that is something that we are going to attempt to focus on in our workshop today. And of course I have journal prompts and I have a tarot spread that I will be including in today's video. I will put it in the description box below, of course, for your ease of reference. Before we get into that, I think we should head straight into the deck list video. These are the decks that I thought would work best for this type of a workshop. And of course I can't do a Hades workshop without talking about the Darkwood Tarot. So this deck, it's very gothic, so it goes with how I envision him. And I've spoken on the past before that I understand that this deck is a lot of Hecatean practitioners feel Hecate very strongly in this deck. Upside down. I, however, for some reason, I really gravitate towards Oracle for Hecate and not Tarot as much, which is very unique to my experience with her, by the way. From the very beginning of connecting with this deck, I felt Hades come through very strongly with this deck. This deck feels like the Underworld to me. So I align this deck very much with the energy of Hades, and I worked with this deck throughout the workshop to create the workshop to connect with Hades' energy. And I highly recommend it for this workshop if you have this deck and you resonate with it, to work with Hades. So again, this is the Darkwood Tarot. A recent addition to my collection is the Doula Oracle. I purchased this quite some time back. It got lost in the mail, so the creators of the deck were kind enough to send me another copy. I did purchase this deck with my own funds, by the way. But it did get lost in the mail, so I'm very happy that this copy arrived, because there was a time where I wasn't too sure if I would ever have this deck in my possession. But I've been enjoying connecting with this deck intuitively, and it worked really well with Hades. It was able to clarify a lot of the messages that were coming through for this workshop. The photography is just absolutely beautiful. I'm still getting to know this deck, and I'm looking forward to connecting with it more in the future. But again, I highly recommend this deck if you feel drawn to working with Hades with this deck and you have it in your collection. This is an independently produced deck. Don't worry, I have a lot of other decks that I think could work really well with his energy. Next, I have another Gothic deck. This is the Tarot of Vampyres. This is unfortunately an out-of-print deck at this point in time. However, I'm sure so many of you already possess this deck. It has this dark, rich gothic imagery that I think would work really well with Hades' energy. Of course, the guidebook is fantastic. There's a lot of symbolism that you can use to connect with Hades. And receive messages. So again, this is the Tarot of Vampyres. This is another deck that I recommend for this workshop. Another deck I have is the Antique Anatomy Tarot. This deck it has a very masculine, brooding, moody kind of energy. Again, I kind of align it with this gothic emo energy. This deck is mass produced. It's easy to purchase. As far as I know, it is still in print, so you can still purchase a copy. I've used this deck to connect with Hades in the past. I like to work with this deck intuitively with him, working with the symbolism and the imagery. And I like the death, and I like the plants, the life representations in the card imagery. I think it pairs really well with Hades' energy. So again, this is the Antique Anatomy Tarot. It's created by Claire Goodchild, and it is mass produced, so it's easy to come by. So another mass-produced oracle deck that I think could work, and I've worked with this deck in the past with Hades. This deck is it's incredible at clarifying tarot. I like to work with the black and white imagery. I find it very easy to read intuitively. And again, this is a very rich in symbolism deck. Sorry, it's called the Talisman Oracle, by the way. This is a US Games deck. Here's a scorpion. With the rose, that's really pretty, or the flowers. I'm not too sure what flower that is. I love the imagery. I think this pairs really well with Hades. Okay, again, this is the Talisman Oracle. It was published by US Games, and it's by Nora Paskaleva. I hope I pronounced that correctly. Lacrimosa Tarot, created by Rose Bay. You can purchase this on Make Plain Cards. I edged mine in black. This deck is very Underworld. There's nudity in this image, so just warning you. This deck has an Underworld energy to it. It's very dark, very mysterious. and I typically turn to it when I have very heavy emotions. This deck really just always allowed me the space to feel or to grieve and just sit with any heavy emotions that I'm dealing with in my life. I've shared on the channel in the past that this deck has almost a fear of God to it. I can't describe it. It's just how I feel about this deck energetically. And there's also a deep respect for the struggles that we all tend to go through just based off of being imperfect, having desires and emotions. There's a compassion to this deck. So again, this is the Lacrimosa Tarot. It was created by Rose Bay. Lastly, I couldn't not include this deck. This is another Rose Bay creation. It's these Blue Bones Oracle. So anytime you're working with Hades, there's an incredible opportunity to do some deep reflection. And these Blue Bones is the perfect deck for journaling, for recognizing deep emotions. And I think that this deck, as well as all the other decks that I've included in today's video, I think that they will really assist you in your journaling with any of the journal prompts that I include in today's video, as well as the tarot spread, which, by the way, feel free to use it as an oracle spread if you prefer oracle over tarot. I've shared on the channel in the past that I feel like I'm reading somebody's, like fragments of somebody's love letters from the past. Like this is a previous relationship that didn't work out. It has this Six of Cups, nostalgic. It's like, there's a loss and longing with this deck. There's grief. That I think pairs really well with the archetype of Hades, with his archetypal energy. Having to be separated from his wife for 6 months out of the year in the myths. Okay, so let's head into the journal prompts and tarot spread, and then I'm going to do a reading at the end, and a psychic energy reading to close out the workshop. Journal prompts. So we're starting with, how can I prioritize play and relaxation as much as my responsibilities? Next we have, how can I make room for a little play in my life each day? Followed by, how can I establish a sense of balance between play and responsibilities? Next, I have, how can I shift my focus from the stress of my responsibilities to the aspects of my day that I truly enjoy? What about my responsibility do I struggle with the most? If I'm feeling burdened by the weight of my responsibilities, is there a person I could perhaps share the burden with? Are you feeling depleted and struggling with having the energy or time to spend on yourself? If so, how can I reserve some energy for myself? How can I be present today with the ones I love and find the beauty in the moment? Finally, our tarot spread. What is the reason behind my feelings of being trapped? So I would recommend you pull 1 to 3 cards for card position number 1 that we just read. Card position number 2 is how can I accept that my circumstances have changed and my expectations no longer apply? Finally, for card position number 3, how can I meet a balance between the reality of my situation and expectations? Okay, so now let's close out the workshop with a psychic reading for the collective. And I think I'm just going to use these blue bones here. Another thing is I realized that I was pulling a lot of reversed cards. I don't typically read reverse cards, but it resonated this time. So you might find that you're pulling a lot of reverse cards too. Of course, it's completely up to you to follow or read those cards. Yeah, so he's kind of just echoing the same message. You can see I pulled the garden, the way out, as well as poison here. So we're really just echoing the same message as earlier of the expectations that we're currently feeling very trapped in, our own structures, even our own fixations. That the same kind of message of adhering to structures of the past. That there is really a need to acknowledge and recognize that situations, circumstances have changed, and we now really need to reevaluate our expectations or our vision of how things should be, or how we view success for ourselves. That I do feel like there's a lot of really strong, intense feelings of perhaps frustration that maybe things aren't working out the way that you're used to. Because again, we're feeling really stuck in this old perspective of, he's really urging us to really shift and change how we view success, to really reevaluate the structures that we've set for ourselves. I think especially because it is really causing us a lot of grief, a lot of discomfort, a lot of frustration. That there is really a need to do some self-reflection, some journaling on perhaps, again, there's a huge strong theme of expectations, to really take a look at our expectations for ourselves, for our loved ones, perhaps coworkers, friendships. There's really an urge and a need to reevaluate that, and to really take a deep look at the structures that we've created for ourselves, our routines. Perhaps there's also, I got a message about possibly doing a release ritual. You could maybe work with the next dark moon to really shift, or to help us shift the way that we're working on things here, the way that we're approaching success for ourselves. That there's a need for release, a need to let go and recreate some new structures for ourselves, to identify which of our expectations are no longer working for us. That it's okay that they worked in the past, it's just they're no longer working for us anymore because we've changed. So this is a great place to end the video. I hope you enjoyed this workshop. I will also, I think, have my unboxing for the Death Doula Oracle up on the channel around the same time. And then I'm hoping to create my September wrap-up video, which I can't believe the end of September is upon us. As well as there were some other goodies I wanted to create for the channel. I am feeling like I'm coming down with something, so I'm hoping that I bounce back quickly in time for creating those videos. But you never know. But anyways, thank you so much for watching this video, and I will see you in the next one. Bye.